Most of the characters that perform in this book still live, and are prosperous and happy. Someday it may seem worthwhile to take up the story of the younger ones again and see what sort of men and women they turned out to be. Therefore, it will be wisest not to reveal any of that part of their lives at present. Hello again, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host. What is a Disney animated movie? What makes a Disney film's story so intrinsically Disney? This question occurred to me recently. We talk a lot about the different eras of Disney animation, and I have a script explaining my personal take on those eras, eventually coming out. But that got me thinking, what are the genres of Disney? We know the princess films, and that's the most obvious one and the one they started with, but that's only about a quarter of the canon. What are the other types of stories that they've told over the decades? This is a question I have attempted to satisfactorily answer in this script. I will list here for you and explain the 7 distinct subgenres of Disney animated classics, or, in other words, the only 7 types of movie that they have so far ever made. I'm now going to take you through them in the chronological order that they each first showed up in the canon, and briefly explain each subgenre, its hallmarks, and how successful it has been throughout the greater history of Disney animation. Let's go! Number 1. Princess films. So far released 16/18 if you count the 2 that aren't released yet when this video comes out. First example being all the way back in 1937, and the most recent example being the recent Wish in 2023. I still categorize it as a princess type film. Yes, I know that's a little controversial. Encanto is as well, but sue me. And then the next example coming out very soon later this year in 2024 with Moana 2. Films about princesses, or at the very least princess archetype characters, are the most common, important, and iconic of Disney's personal subgenres. They're usually films about a young woman yearning for something that she doesn't or can't have, along with her trusted animal sidekick, usually a romance, often one or both parents are dead or absent for some reason, and there's almost always magic involved, as well as a big, fun, theatrical Disney villain, a quest, a journey, and hopefully several total sing-along bangers. In fact, so common is it for Disney princess films to be musicals that it took until 2021 with Raya and the Last Dragon for Disney to finally put out a princess film that wasn't full of songs.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Following the mixed reception of that experiment, they then immediately pivoted back to the regular musical princess-type movie formula with Encanto, and then Wish again. It's the genre Disney began with, it's the one they usually begin eras with. All 4 of the most successful eras of Disney animation began with the princess film. The Golden, the Silver, the Renaissance, and then of course the Revival. And it's the one they return to in time of need again and again, and more so recently, which is why in my eras video you'll see that I actually call the Renaissance the first princess era, and the Revival the second princess era, because they've ramped up the frequency of their princess films at an exponential rate. They're now just releasing them constantly all the time, especially with the fact that Frozen is now a trilogy franchise at this point, about to be, so it's just princess film after princess film when Disney is in danger, no matter if they do well or not. And Encanto and Wish both did about the same numbers at the box office, so they both kind of lost money, but they also didn't do horribly. It was actually Raya that was the huge bomb, but anyway, they haven't been big moneymakers. Nothing has been a big moneymaker for Disney animation recently at all, no matter the quality of the movie. I personally love Wish, but I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's a fantastic movie. I love Encanto too. I love both of them, so it's just nothing has been making money for them recently. It's very interesting. But back to princess films. Little girls, and then by extension their brothers and parents, are ultimately the purest and most specific demographic for Disney animation, now and always. And so princess films have become the subgenre that everyone in the world now intrinsically identifies with Disney animation, and Disney overall. Examples stemming from 1937 to the present day include, of course, Snow White in 1937, Cinderella in 1950, Sleeping Beauty in 1959, The Little Mermaid in 1989, Beauty and the Beast in 1991, Aladdin in 1992, Pocahontas in 1995, Mulan in 1998, The Princess and the Frog in 2009, Tangled in 2010, Frozen in 2013, Moana in 2016, Frozen 2 in 2019, Raya and the Last Dragon and Encanto in 2021, Wish in 2023, and now, coming up, Moana 2 in 2024, as well as Frozen 3 at some point, maybe next year or the year after. I don't know when Frozen 3 is coming out, but eventually Frozen 3 is coming out. So that's 16 going on 18 at this point. Wow. What a thing. So at this point, over a quarter of the movies they've produced, or it's going to be, yeah. Number 2. Starting in 1940, Prince films, or what I call princess films for boys, basically. Prince or coming-of-age stories, but usually both. But they're princess films for boys. They're basically the same genre as princess films, except they're for the little boy audience as well, which, means they're all for all audiences, but these are the story of a young man rather than the story of a young woman. And usually the protagonists are a little bit younger, overall. On average, at least. Sometimes they're kind of more childlike. First example, 1940, and the last example, 2003. The male counterpart to the princess subgenre, and the same in almost every way, except for the fact that the young male protagonists are less often royalty of some kind, though that trope does show up around half the time, even in these films. Nevertheless, very similar formula to the princess movies, just with a young man this time and the differences that come with telling a coming-of-age story for a boy rather than a girl. They also, even more frequently than the princess films, feature a massive physical transformation of some kind. For example, The Princess and the Frog, with its animal transformation plot device, is quite unusual for a princess film, but would be a fairly standard narrative in a princess film for boys, or more simply, a prince movie. These sorts of films dominated Disney storytelling in their last days under Walt Disney. Sadly, since well before even the revival era, this subgenre that was once so popular that made up a full 30% of the Disney Renaissance, and that started all the way back with the iconic and beloved Pinocchio, has fallen completely out of favor nowadays. Here's hoping we get a princess movie for boys sometime in the 2020s, as it has now been over a full 20 years since the last entry with Brother Bear. What has really happened here is that the much later, as I will talk about, science fiction quest movie subgenre has utterly supplanted the princess movie for boys as one of the only types of stories they tell with male leads nowadays. The examples in order are Pinocchio in 1940, The Sword and the Stone, 1963, The Jungle Book, 1967, The Black Cauldron, 1985, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1996, Hercules, 1997, Tarzan, 1999, The Emperor's New Groove, 2000, and Brother Bear, 2003. Yeah, over 20 years. Damn. That's a crazy legacy that they have there, with starting with Pinocchio all the way to Brother Bear, and they're just done with them.
It's gone. It's done.
The third, once again introduced in 1940, anthologies. Last seen in 1999, this is probably the least likely to be revived or seen again. Bookended by the first and last Fantasia films, the anthologies are a bizarre subset of Disney. At once the subgenre that is still the only one of the 7 to not even have an entry in the 21st century, the last one coming in 1999, and the only subgenre with an entire Disney era to itself in the package film age. Often tied intrinsically to music, always containing at least 2 stories, but usually many more, and framing devices to boot, Disney's anthologies are a distinct flavor of bizarre, with 4 separate duologies contained within the 8, which is an oddly well-balanced configuration, and more variety than you can shake a pair of intricately detailed mouse ears at. They're also usually characterized, alongside the association with music, by being meditations on the nature and function of the art of animation itself. I personally don't see Disney putting out another anthology unless they were to do a third Fantasia, perhaps 100 years after the first, in 2040. I would be very interested to see that someday, but we shall have to wait. The entries on this list are in order: Fantasia, 1940, Saludos Amigos, 1943, The Three Caballeros, 1944, Make Mine Music, 1946, Fun and Fancy Free, 1947, Melody Time, 1948, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, 1949, and finally, Fantasia 2000, in 1999. Animals of Human Intelligence films. First example 1941, most recent example 2008. The fourth and last subgenre introduced in the Golden or Tar and Sugar era, and the only one to get 2 entries in the era, in the back-to-back productions of Dumbo and Bambi. This is probably the second most iconic subgenre of Disney, after princess films, and the other distinct type of film that most fans could easily name you without much thought. It is the films where the animals in our world have the same level of intelligence as we do and communication skills, and live their lives around us, usually having to avoid detection with societies of their own, but still always acting like the species of animal that they are, physically, with their characteristics and some of their personality traits. This is a subgenre that Disney truly pioneered, but it is one they return to less and less now, as other animation studios will frequently use an identical set of world-building rules, making it less distinctly Disney and more just an animated film trope in general. It was also, I suppose, just a genre of fiction that they also played a part in pioneering on screen, but it was already something in books, so obviously. But I'm just saying that in terms of animated movies, it now feels a little bit less Disney than it used to. Nevertheless, from Bambi and 101 Dalmatians to The Great Mouse Detective and The Lion King, this was once a genre that delivered some of the studio's highest artistic achievements, most popular films, and greatest financial successes by far. And not for nothing, but this subgenre also held the lead for most individual entries for a long time, after initially surpassing anthologies, until finally being passed in recent years by princess films, Encanto and Wish giving that subgenre now 16 films. Yes, I know neither of them are official, but still I don't care. I'm putting them in the category. You can be mad about it in the comments.
I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Unless that's a new subgenre, unless like princess films in everything but name are a subgenre, but then I hate that because that would then start with Frozen because they're technically their own franchise, so I really don't like that. So screw that. No, they're princesses. Anyway, pardon my French.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
The 14 examples of animals of human intelligence but in a regular human world films are in order: Dumbo from 1941, Bambi from 1942, Lady and the Tramp from 1955, 101 Dalmatians from 1961, The Aristocats from 1970, The Rescuers from 1977, The Fox and the Hound from 1981, The Great Mouse Detective from 1986, Oliver and Company from 1988, The Rescuers Down Under from 1990, The Lion King from 1994, Dinosaur from 2000, Home on the Range from 2004, and finally, most recently, Bolt from 2008. Hidden, alternate, and undiscovered worlds. Always used as an element, but it is often the main point, distinguishing it from movies containing hidden worlds merely as a minor element of the plot or movie overall only. So far, 7 entries, the first example being from 1951, and the most recent example, interestingly enough, being Massive Massive Bomb from 2022. This was the first of the subgenres introduced after the Golden Era and its initial 4, and the last subgenre to be introduced under Walt himself. This periodically returned to subgenre is that of those films primarily concerned with the experiencing of a hidden or previously undiscovered world. This subgenre is one with an impressively long history, and an impressive consistency rate, in my opinion, with the still fairly enjoyable Strange World being easily the worst of these 7 fascinating entries. Featuring stories in which one or more leads are taken away from their natural habitat and plunked into a totally different environment, planet, or even reality entirely. This is one of the most sneakily iconic Disney subgenres. While it doesn't have even close to the most entries, the ones it does have, especially the 3 earliest entries consisting of Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, and The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, have had some of the most impact ever on the Disney brand visually, in parks, and in the general iconography of the company. While the later early 2000s duology, Atlantis and Lilo and Stitch, are both loved almost universally today by fans, having overcome their early cult status to now being simply viewed as full Disney classics in their own rights. with entries in the Silver Era, the Bronze Era, the transition to CGI era, the Disney Revival era, as well as the current sequels and streaming era, and you'll get that more a little bit when I've made my other video about the eras. This looks to be a subgenre that might be making a slight comeback, and maybe can get another entry in the not-too-distant future. That is, if the total and utter failure of Strange World doesn't strangle that hope in its infancy. The protagonists of these films, especially Alice, Wendy, Milo, Lilo, and Searcher, tend to be dreamers and highly intelligent, but somewhat irritable and often socially awkward. Winnie the Pooh, in his 2 films as the main character, breaks this mold somewhat, but is still very much in the dreamer category, in keeping with all the rest. The 7 entries in this list so far are Alice in Wonderland, 1951, Peter Pan, 1953, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, 1977, Atlantis, The Lost Empire in 2001, Lilo and Stitch in 2002, Winnie the Pooh in 2011, and Strange World in 2022.
If you have any poo, fling it now.
The 6th, Animals in Place of Humans World films. So far, 3, soon to be 4 entries. First example, 1973, latest example, 2016, but again, soon to be another. The smallest, weirdest, and most unique of any Disney subgenre, to me at least. Distinct from other animals-driven films, the beasts in these 3 movies act almost entirely like humans, except essentially for their physical needs. In all other ways, they have human-like experiences, even going through some of the same world history as we have, a la Robin Hood. With at least one more entry on the way in the announced Zootopia 2, this is a subgenre that was able to weather the failure of its second entry in Chicken Little, and is now firmly on the upswing, looking to continue what has been, with the massive success of the first Zootopia, its most successful period yet in the company's history. This is still as close as we have to a newer fledgling subgenre, because of how few entries it has, as opposed to the one I'm about to tell you about, and so I am interested to see how relevant it may or may not continue to be. This was also the first subgenre to be introduced after the death of Walt, and with basically no involvement from him other than his greenlighting of a Chanticleer project that then partially turned into Robin Hood. Entries in this subgenre are so far chronologically in order: Robin Hood in 1973, Chicken Little in 2005, Zootopia in 2016, and Zootopia 2 in 2025, I think. So actually, it's an interesting gap. That's like 9 years. The 7th and last, Science Fiction Quests. So far, 5. First example, 2002. Most recent example, 2018. The youngest and one of the hottest of the Disney subgenres after the turn of the century. This is also the only new and totally distinct subgenre that Disney Animation has introduced at any time in the last 50 years. From the ashes of one of the biggest box office failures in the history of the company, has now risen one of the most financially successful staples of recent years, as well as now producing mostly overrated entries, especially in comparison to that first aforementioned masterpiece with which they fully began this subgenre, Treasure Planet. Atlantis and Treasure Planet were the transition films, truly caught in the middle. Part science fiction quest, part princess film for boys, part hidden world. Atlantis is ultimately a dominant hidden world film, while Treasure Planet would become the first true science fiction quest Disney animation film, and still easily the best. These movies often revolve around journeys, seeking important objects, and experiencing new technology. They are often some of Disney Animation's biggest and boldest action-adventure films or blockbusters. They frequently feature twist or sympathetic or both villains, yet another way in which Atlantis and Treasure Planet in tandem influenced so many films to come after them. 4 of the 5 villains in this subgenre are sympathetic figures, and 4 of the 5 of them also have their villainy revealed as a twist in some way. These films are, chronologically in order, Treasure Planet from 2002, Meet the Robinsons 2007, Wreck-It Ralph 2012, Big Hero 6 2014, and, most recently, Ralph Breaks the Internet in 2018. Sure you can tell what I feel about that film from that face.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
And that's it. Those are, in order of introduction into the canon, the 7 subgenres of Disney animation film in terms of their storytelling. They are princess films for boys or prince films, anthology films, animals of human intelligence but in the regular human world films, hidden, alternate, or undiscovered world films, human-like animals in their own animal world with human history films, and finally, science fiction quest films. The question remains, of course, where will Disney Animation go next? Well, we have already had announcements, as I have talked about after Wish, for a third Frozen film, as well as a Zootopia sequel, as well as, of course, coming out later this year, Moana 2, and we'll see what that's like. Meaning that we have 2 more princess sequels adding onto the canon, as well as the 4th entry in the animals as humans in their own human world category. In the near future, I'll bet we'll continue to get a princess movie every few years, maybe every 3 or 4 at least, judging by recent trends. But beyond that, I could see Disney maybe going back to some old favorite genres that have fallen out of favor, such as animals of human intelligence, or maybe, if we're lucky, a little prince film mixed in there. And I hope, above all, that we might soon get an 8th subgenre, something totally not seen before, I would hope, since we haven't had a new Disney animation subgenre in over 20 years.
It's been 84 years.
Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this informative. This was fun to make, and I hope that my visuals stand up to my writing in this one, because I thought that I thought that this was a really, really fun one to dig into, and I love the subgenres. So thank you very much for watching. And if you're still here, good night, good luck, and
Don't let the door hit you on the way out, 'cause I don't want ass prints on my new door.
That's all.